You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's November the 30th, and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News, found here at paceradio.net and cpgtv.com. Thanks, Cindy. I noticed that right at the end.
And so did I. I looked at it and went,
Oops. Okay. Well, Cindy, the two of us are back at it again today. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a few more oops throughout the show. Being we're both used to running the board, but today we got 9 stories. Every other story is psychedelics or cannabis all the way through.
Nice. It's exciting.
Yes, it is. And as people tell me, we always learn something.
Yeah. Always learn something new.
That's right. Exactly. All right. Anything quickly before we get into the news?
I don't think so. I'm heading to Ontario tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm going to be at the Lifted Market on Sunday, so I hope to see a few people there.
Oh, nice. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I unfortunately won't be able to join you down there, but I want to get to one of those markets again.
I'm so excited. I was going to stay for an extra week, but it's Christmas, grandkids, it's expensive, and I decided to forgo the extra time outside of seeing my aunt. But I am still there on Sunday, and I still have free time to hit the Lifted Market before, like in between things that I'm doing. So I haven't been there since the last Karma Cup, festival.
Right.
So it's been a while. I'm excited to go.
Yeah, actually, we got together down there, Karma Cup. Right. Yeah. All right, let's go to our first story. And on that, the headline says,
coming from Ganjapreneur, Weedmaps data finds Green Wednesday cannabis sales outpace Black Friday sales.
I never heard of Green Wednesday.
No,
until like 2 weeks ago.
I heard last night.
But it's big, obviously.
Yeah.
Cannabis sales on the day before Thanksgiving surpassed sales on Black Friday, accounting for 21% of the weekly gross market value over the holiday week, according to ordered data from Weedmaps. The day before Thanksgiving has been dubbed Green Wednesday due to the historically strong cannabis sales. Weedmaps saw 42% growth in total order volume on Green Wednesday, and the average basket value that day was 103% higher than the average Wednesday during the month of November. However, the day's gross market value was down 4% compared to Weed Wednesday of 2022.
Interesting. Orders for edibles increased most significantly on Green Wednesday, according to Weedmaps data, up 81%. Edibles also held 6 of the top 10 products sold on Green Wednesday. Last year, the category held 5 of the top 10. Vape pens orders also increased by 52%, and flower increased by 48% over the average Wednesday in November, according to Weedmaps data. So far this year, edible products have hold 7 of the top 10 selling products, while vape and flower products each hold 2 spots, according to Weedmaps data. And they want to say that name a lot in here. Hey, which notes that while flower is still the most purchased product category overall, the firm reports an 18.5% year-over-year increase for edible products compared to 9.3% increase in flower.
Wow. Yeah, those are big differences, increases when it comes to the edibles. Wow.
Absolutely.
All right. What's the next headline?
The next headline is, I don't have it up yet. Just a second.
Okay. All right. Good.
I'm getting there. I'm clicking buttons. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Last night, Tamara and I were talking about edibles because up until yesterday, neither one of us had ever bought any. All right.
Really?
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
I get a story about my edibles the first time. But anyway, that's a different time. Heading over to Microsoft Start, the use of psychedelic drugs to treat mental illness is allowed in Australia, but confusion remains.
Months after Australia found itself at the global forefront of work to treat mental illness using psychedelic substances found in illicit drugs like ecstasy and magic mushrooms, those working in the field say confusion is rife. A surprise decision by the country's drug regulator to approve the use of the substances, which caught even those working in the field unaware, came into effect on July the 1st.
Since then, public interest in the use of MDMA and psilocybin to treat conditions like PTSD and treatment-resistant depression has grown while mental health practitioners try to navigate the unexpected change, with some flagging serious reservations. As issues around how treatment should be administered, who should be able to access the tightly controlled substances, and how much treatment should cost remains unclear. A body of medical and health practitioners has called for an urgent industry meeting to help iron out the problems.
Well, it sounds like they just said here and didn't give them any guidance.
Mhm.
Anthony Bloch chairs the Australian multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Practitioners, a 160-member organization formed in the wake of the decision by the Therapeutic Goods Administration. He said the group understood that the TGA decision was both unexpected and perhaps premature, given the lack of adequate research up until now into psychedelic medicines.
But Dr. Blah and said, in light of the decision having been made, the group is calling for an urgent meeting to be held with the TGA, the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrics, and state health departments to help improve how things are working. The current regulatory system is virtually unworkable, overcautious, and cumbersome, and needs to evolve with the help and input from those practitioners who have appropriate knowledge and experience working in the psychedelic field, he said.
The TGA said it was always open to meet with stakeholders in order to help overcome points of confusion that may exist. It had met with stakeholders regarding the use of psilocybin and MDMA. The TGA welcomes an expression of the interest to meet with any organization should they wish to seek further discussion on these issues, they say.
The RANZCP President Elizabeth Moore said guidance developed by the body regarding psychedelic assisted therapy involved consultation with experts with patient safety as the primary concern and number one priority. While early evidence around the use of psilocybin and MDMA is promising, our approach has always been cautious because of limited research in this area, she said.
Use of psychedelic assisted therapy may carry its own unique risks that necessitate careful clinical judgment. Dr. Moore said the RANZCP was committed to safe practice and would meet with stakeholders as appropriate.
For people who manage to access the treatment, the process is not a simple case of being handed a script. Psychedelic assisted treatment requires intensive preparation and supervision and trusting relationships with the mental health practitioners involved. Experts say about 20 hours is the minimum requirement for a course of treatment.
Under the changes, only authorized prescribers, psychiatrists approved by the TGA, are able to access and administer MDMA and psilocybin. Dr. Bosch said he understood that less than 10 psychiatrists across Australia have been authorized as prescribers. Less than 10.
While we understand the caution, limiting prescribers to that level of involvement in psychedelics does not add to safety, in our opinion, he said. All it does is completely restrict access.
He also said the level of involvement expected from the authorized prescribers was out of sync with the way mental health treatment worked on the ground. According to the TGA, the authorized prescribers must be directly involved in the immediate care of every patient undergoing treatment, unquote. That includes patient screening and consent, accessing the drugs for treatment, and accessing the treatment.
Dr. Bloss said the role supporting mental health practitioners could play in treatment was unclear, as were the settings for psychedelic assisted therapy. Some state governments are now saying the clinics have to be inpatient facilities, while other state governments are saying they can just be day clinics, he said.
In and out in the day. Psychiatrist Nigel Strauss, who has been involved in psychedelic therapy for more than a decade, said that the body of research behind the use of MDMA to treat PTSD is quite well established compared with the use of psilocybin to treat depression. And he said the drugs worked differently.
Yeah, psilocybin is a true psychedelic, and I think there's a need for more research on who is suitable for this treatment to discover outcomes and so forth, Dr. Strauss said. Even though the TGA have announced that we can use it in treatment-resistant depression, I think there is some concern that there's still more to be learned about how we select people for this treatment and how the treatment is carried out.
A Swinburne University study involving about 160 participants trialing the use of psilocybin for depression is about to begin, and Dr. Strauss said such studies, the approval of which is separate to the TGA decision, was crucial to informing the use of the medicine in one-on-one therapeutic settings.
Yeah. The results of that will tell us a lot about the effectiveness of the medicine, but also to help to train a number of therapists, he said. Since the TGA's decision, public interest in psychedelic assisted therapy, PAT, treatments has spiked.
One of the few psychiatrists authorized to prescribe the medicine who wanted to remain anonymous said they had a waiting list of 400 people interested in accessing the treatment. They wrote that they won't be eligible or ideal candidates, however. They are people who have tried every available mental health treatment and are interested in psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Another practitioner said they received about 10 inquiries a week, with that figure jumping to about 30 immediately after the news, Netflix special, etc. Amid the increased interest is also a lack of understanding about the strict criteria that means many will not be eligible.
One practitioner reported that their client had told them that when they saw a psychiatrist the next month for their ADHD, they were going to ask for a script of psilocybin so they could start microdosing. Given the intense nature of psychedelic assisted therapy and the lack of subsidies in place for accessing to the medicine, the costs can run into thousands of dollars, making it too expensive for most people to access.
Dr. Strauss said, as well as the long-term goal of attracting a meaningful Medicare rebate, there were opportunities for other funding sources to help individuals access care as the use of the medicine becomes more established. Ideally, we want to see the Department of Veterans Affairs, other first responder organizations starting to fund their members for PTSD treatments, he said.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. They went on to say that we want to see private health insurers jumping in and realizing that funding a person's treatment-resistant depression for a lifetime is more expensive than a psychedelic-assisted therapy, which may put them in remission for years or longer from a single treatment. I was going to say the same thing as that. Basically, that line talked about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can speak from experience. Like, I mean, it used to cost the government about $5,000 for my pharmaceuticals a month. Month. And in 4 months worth of, $20,000. And, so 4 months worth of medicine, and that's it over the last 3 years is what it's cost. 4 months compared to like what they would have spent every month. Unbelievable. The difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Tens of thousands of Australians with PTSD and depression that has so far been, untreatable could be eligible for and potentially helped by psychedelic therapy, according to Dr. Blah. He said Australia, being one of the first countries in the world to approve the use of such treatment, meant getting the implementation right could make it a world leader in improving the lives of many people battling with mental ill health.
The whole world is looking at Australia at the moment as how to do this, the doctor says, which is true. And that was way when Canada legalized cannabis. Everybody was watching.
Everybody welcome.
We have the opportunity to become the first country in the world that provides a safe and effective rollout for psychedelic-assisted therapy that is fully accountable. Dr. Strauss warned that while the whole world was watching, Australia should take the time to get things right and take what he described as a sober approach.
Yeah. Even though Australia is to a certain extent at the forefront, that doesn't mean we go at a galloping pace, he said. We just go at a steady trot and involve as many qualified, sensible people as we can and roll this out effectively that way. Well, good on you, Australia. I'm excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
I'm excited for them.
It'll just add to the piles of reports that are out there, that are accumulating. It just seems like every week there's something
new. Somebody new is doing research, and the more research, the better. And a lot of people, it's the same as cannabis. A lot of people are getting on the research thing to say, oh, psilocybin is bad and I'm going to prove it. And then at the end of it, they're like, ooh, I was wrong.
And the thing about the psilocybin too is they're not trying to get around the stigma of smoking.
Yeah. It's something that you ingest. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
On to the next story. We are heading over to Marijuana Moment. German lawmakers reach agreement on revised marijuana legalization bill with final vote expected next week.
German lawmakers have reached an agreement to revise the cannabis legalization bill, relaxing certain provisions that were challenged by cannabis reform supporters and setting the stage for a final vote in the national parliament next week. Advocates were disappointed when a planned vote in the Bundestag was postponed last week, but there is a renewed optimism that the legislation, as agreed upon by the Traffic Light Coalition, will advance with legalization proposed to come into effect next spring.
A Green Party lawmaker, Kirsten Kapat-Gonther, said on Monday that following intensive negotiations, the bill is being changed in several key ways that will make the law even better, according to a translation. In the negotiations, we managed to find practical regulations that guarantee the protection of young people and health and make the decriminalization of adult consumers a reality, she said.
Most of the amendments to the legislation are designed to loosen restrictions that face opposition from advocates and supporters in the Bundestag. For example, possessing slightly more cannabis than the allowable amount will not be automatically treated as a criminal offense punishable by jail time. Instead, possession of between 25 to 30 grams will be considered an administration violation. They were going to throw people in jail for that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not anymore, though. But if you have 31, watch out.
Yeah.
Similarly, the possession limit for homegrown cannabis will be increased from 25 to 50 grams. With the same administrative violation stipulation applied to possession of between 50 and 60 grams.
How do you, you're having a problem growing if you're only getting 25 grams. If that's their storage amount, 25 to 30 grams, but you're allowed to grow at home?
Yeah. The rules for public consumption are also being revised. The bill now says that people cannot publicly use cannabis within eyesight of a school with a 100-meter minimum distance, as RND and Legal Tribune Online reported. The limit was previously 200 meters, but 25 to 30 grams from homegrown cannabis.
That's about as crazy as the rule that we were going to at one point get, because the government was going to say you can't have a plant higher than 100 centimeters. Hello? Wow. Lawmakers further agreed to stagger the implementation of the reform, making possession and home cultivation legal for adults beginning in April. Social clubs that could distribute cannabis to members could now start to open in July. Other revisions departed with the theme of loosening restrictions. Negotiators agreed to adopt a change that would strengthen criminal penalties for underage sales, for instance.
Lawmaker Christine Lucht, a member of the Bundestag, Bundestag, I don't know how to pronounce that, in the Free Democratic Party, said the new changes make the law even better and bring relief for customers. Officials are also planning to introduce a complementary second measure down the line that would establish pilot programs for commercial sales in cities throughout the country. That legislation is expected to be unveiled after it's submitted to the European Commissions for review.
After the Bundestag passes the legislation measure, Kapert Gother said legislators will continue working together on Pillar 2, which concerns the commercial sales pilot program. After next week's vote, it is expected to be several months before the bill is taken up in the Bundesrat, a separate legislative body that represents German states. Members of the Bundesrat tried to block the proposed reform in September, but ultimately failed.
The Bundestag, meanwhile, has previously already delayed its first debate on the legislation, which was held last month, ostensibly due to the conflict in Israel and Palestine. Lawmakers there recently held a hearing in the Health Committee, at which opponents criticized some elements of the proposal. The body also heard a complete policy proposal from the Union, a political alliance of the Christian Democrat Union and Christian Social Union, that would not legalize cannabis, but instead improve health protection and strengthen education, prevention, and research, Kapert Gother said at the time.
Now, the legalization proposal is being spearheaded by Health Minister Karl Lauterbach, who first shared details about the revised legalization plan last April. The following month, he distributed the legislative text to cabinet officials. The health minister is responding to early criticism of the bill from medical and law enforcement groups by emphasizing that the reform would be coupled with a major campaign to educate the public about the risks of using cannabis. Germany's federal cabinet approved the initial framework for a legalization measure late last year, but the government wanted to get sign-off from the EU to ensure that the enacting the reform wouldn't put them in violation of their international obligations.
The framework was the product of months of review and negotiations with the German administration and the Traffic Light Coalition government. Officials took a first step towards legalization last summer, kicking off a series of hearings meant to inform legalization to end prohibition in the country. Government officials from multiple countries, including the U.S., also met in Germany last week to discuss international cannabis policy issues as the host nation works to enact legalization.
A group of German lawmakers, as well as Narcotics Drugs Commissioner Burkhard Blanert, separately visited the U.S. and toured California's cannabis businesses last year to inform the country's approach to legalization. The visit came about 2 months after top officials from Germany, Luxembourg, Malta, and the Netherlands held a first-of-its-kind meeting to discuss plans and challenges associated with recreational cannabis legalization.
Leaders of the coalition government said in 2021 that they had reached an agreement to end cannabis prohibition and enact regulations for legal industry. And they first previewed certain details of the plan last year. A novel international survey that was released last year found majority support for legalization in several key European countries, including Germany.
Yeah, well, there you go, right?
Let's make my mouse work.
Yeah, that's the end of that story.
So they've taken a step forward, but they are still, 25 grams for a plant.
Yeah. Well, 25 to 60 basically were the two sets of low and high numbers. And, I have seen that, but
that's usually a plant in trouble.
Yeah. That's a genetic thing too, mainly.
Yeah. And it is nice to see that they're at least they're moving forward, even if it's only a tiny little step, and maybe they continue to do so. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, exactly. All right, next story.
On to the next story. We are heading over to City News. Why are magic mushroom retail stores popping up across the country?
Oh, we're over there. Good question. In today's big story podcast, it feels like a trip back to 2017 when cannabis was on the cusp of becoming legal, and most cities in Canada were inundated with dispensaries, unlicensed retail storefronts selling cannabis as if it was already just fine. Mostly, crackdowns on those failed cannabis became legal and everyone stopped carrying. Until this year, when the cycle began again with a different drug, magic mushrooms. Now stores with names like Fungi's and Shroomies have opened across the country, and the enforcement or the lack of thereof seems similar to 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really quite exciting, to be honest, to watch it all happen again.
yeah, exactly. Daniel Eisencroft Klein is a PhD candidate at the Dalai Lama School of Public Health and a fellow at the Canadian Center for Health Economics. He says, I could point someone to at least 30 retail stores in Canada and maybe a dozen websites that tomorrow you could access in Canada where they're selling psilocybin and often a number of other psychedelics.
Wow. It's really exciting. I've actually been to both Fungi's and Shroomies out in Washington, which is pretty cool. How are these two situations and two substances different from the cannabis experience? What does the rise of retail shrooms tell us about psychedelics in general? And is psilocybin really on track to become the next legal recreational drug?
I don't know. We'll find out.
It's definitely one I find very much like cannabis. It's an amazing medicine that has recreational tendencies.
Correct.
But really, the recreational tendencies I find are, it's still medicinal because it helps a lot of people with their social anxiety.
Yeah. It's like cannabis. As they say, all use is medical use. Some people may not realize it, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Where are you at? We got enough time to do one more story? Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, we could probably do one more before we head over. We are heading over to Psychedelics Spotlight. There's a new study that says LSD and psilocybin could outperform opiates for pain without developing tolerance.
Yes. That's right. Classic psychedelics might kill pain that even greater vigor over the time. Scientists posted this theory based on nerve pain research showing that serotonin-targeted drugs increasingly relieve discomfort with repeated use, sharply contrasting with opioids. That's just a big quote at the top there. Most people put pain and depression in two separate categories, myself included, but when a doctor recently explained that PTSD and depression hurt too, the light bulb went off, and of course, they do.
Yeah. The lines between emotional and physical pain are entirely blurred due to the brain's interconnected processing mechanisms. People with nociceptive conditions know this better than anyone. That kind of pain involves glitches in how the nervous system processes bodily and emotional discomfort. People with this kind of pain feel intense anguish despite the lack of apparent injury or nerve damage. Many develop depression, hinting that their emotional and physical pain share underlying causes. Desperate for relief, people often turn to opioids alongside various talk therapies.
Opioids work horrifically well at first because they act directly at the central nervous system to block pain signals and make people feel elated. However, it's no secret by now that these pain ravagers come with increasing tolerance, addiction, and life-threatening respiratory depression. Unlike opioids, LSD and psilocybin don't directly and immediately modulate pain receptors, but they may have a serious edge for nocoplastic conditions like IBS and CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome, due to the serotoninogenic action. A recent literature review suggests these classic psychedelics may tackle physical agony with increasing efficiency over time while multitasking on the organs of emotional anguish.
Oh, I have so much that I could talk and banter over that. It's true. It's true. I'm walking, talking proof that psychedelics can help pain. I don't take anything for pain anymore unless it's really, really bad, which we were talking about that before.
Yeah. We were talking exactly about that before we came live.
Yeah. It's pretty. And I've got a friend who woke up this morning with a migraine, and she took a microdose, and an hour later the migraine was gone. So
nice.
Yeah. According to the review, psychedelic treatment for physical pain isn't exactly new. Between 1964 and 1977, there was a small-scale clinical there were small-scale clinical trials, and case reports showed LSD was a powerful painkiller, even outperforming opiates for cancer and gangrene. Fast forward to today, and people are self-medicating cluster headaches with LSD and psilocybin, often with better results than conventional treatments.
There you go. Just what you were just talking about 30 seconds ago. Pain studies are growing, but psychedelic therapy is still far better known for mental health. Countless trials starting in the 1950s show LSD and psilocybin can have lasting positive effects on mental and emotional struggles, enhancing resilience and self-awareness. Psilocybin is even fast approaching potentially FDA approval for treatment-resistant depression, thanks to incredible clinical results. Now, psychedelics seem to rewire the brain in ways that change its relationship with emotional strife and make it less sensitive to physical pain signals.
Yeah. This complex neural adjustment could be critical for non-receptive patients whose pain detecting neurons get triggered by even the mildest stimuli. Sensitivity often starts with run-of-the-mill pain, but over time the feeling gets more intense, and eventually the discomfort sticks around like an uninvited manic. The condition transforms from acute to chronic in no time as cells shift roles, genes function differently, and cellular proteins start to move out of place. Eventually, the brain shifts from mismanaging physical pain to bludgeoning emotions as well, potentially explaining why many chronic pain patients develop depression and anxiety, or vice versa.
Yeah. Chronic pain also involves changes in a part of the brain network associated with self-focused thoughts. In 2001, scientists named these areas the default mode network. People with depression or chronic neuroplastic pain show unusual high activity in the DMN, linked to getting stuck in loops of negative thoughts or being overly self-obsessed. The DMN, in these cases, can't connect well with other brain parts, especially those dealing with emotions and pain.
Psychedelics are interesting here as they famously interacted with the serotonin receptors occurring prominently throughout the DMN by activating serotonin receptors, including these two major ones, the 5-HT2A and the 5-HT1A. Psychedelics seem to increase the brain's information richness, or entropy. Higher entropy allows the brain to break free from the DMN's rigid and overactive control. This process could reset the brain, potentially offering a new way to treat chronic pain and emotional distress.
Neuroreceptor pain is also linked to specific brain functions like BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which are important for cells to connect and change. Lower BDNF levels occur in chronic pain and depression, and psychedelics could boost these levels. Inflammation is another major player in chronic pain and depression, especially in conditions like IBS, fibro, and CRPS. Psychedelics could help there too by reducing inflammation and promoting the growth and connecting of brain cells.
Mm-hmm. The most exciting painkiller theory is that LSD and psilocybin might become even more effective over time. Scientists poise that based on nerve pain, research showing that the 5-HT1A targeted drugs increase pain relief with repeated use, sharply contrasting with opiate effects. Opiate tolerance often transforms into disastrous addictions as people take higher and higher doses in pursuit of the same result. Patients regularly take opiate drugs seeking relief, even though clinical evidence calls the practice a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Opiates are not only ineffective for fibro, but patients generally wear worse than those on non-opioids. Not to mention, traditional painkillers especially fail to address pains experiential and psychological dimensions. Humans aren't just flesh and bones, nor are we just minds and emotions, although they often run the show. We're a mysterious combination, and so is our pain. It's both physical and transpersonal. Psychedelics are among the only known substances that engage in the intricate dance of biological processes targeting inflammation, enhancing brain health. They emerge as pain relievers and as agents of holistic healing. Yeah.
Wow, that was an amazing story.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And that brings us to break time, which means it's medication time for us, Al.
Yes, it is. It sure is. And when we get back, we'll continue the news. We got 4 more stories to cover. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News, found here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBGTV, broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have 2 lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
We're back. We're back for a medication session, and we're live again too. All right, we got 4 more stories. 20 minutes. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what
All right.
happens. Coming to us from StratCan, the downside of too much weed.
Yeah, price compression in Canada's cannabis industry has been relentless, with no relief expected anytime soon. This is placing pressure on producers of all sizes. Big LPs have an abundance of mid-grade flower in their vaults, and smaller growers are fighting to differentiate their products in a saturated market. The price pressure is also giving a boost to some product categories.
Every large producer is looking for a product that costs less to make or where they can rein the value they're losing on a mid-quality flower, says Tanner Stewart, co-founder and CEO of Stewart Farms in Milltown, New Brunswick. The massive flower surplus has driven innovation in the milled pre-roll and extracts categories significantly, with low input costs on flower, allowing for a lot of innovation in the infused category. The market dynamic has proved an opportunity for smaller operators to add value.
Yeah, Colin Davison, president of McIntyre Creek Cannabis, he says infused cannabis has been a welcome category for outdoor growers and has provided a major base of volume sales for outdoor LPs. I see nothing but positives to this category. This has been a huge success for us, and they are an outdoor grower. Nonetheless, the pricing distortion created by the overproduction of cannabis by large, well-established LPs continues to create challenges for smaller producers. No product categories are immune from the effects of price depression.
We've stopped making infused pre-rolls because the market has crashed, said Gord Nickel, who is the president and co-owner of North 40 Cannabis in Nipawin, Saskatchewan. A distributor asked us to replace a product they were happy with. We reversed engineered it and realized we couldn't compete. All these big producers are selling their products at steep losses, and the only one who's benefiting is the consumer for now. Some industry observers believe that the surplus of biomass is also affecting the ongoing debate about what qualifies as an edible. Health Canada insists that any edible cannabis product over the 10 milligram THC limit can't be defined as an ingestible extract, but some companies beg to differ.
Yeah, I'm sure that they do. We've been reporting on some of them. If you look at the high-level lobbying from large corporate companies lately, their whole reason to increase THC edibles is to increase THC limits in edibles, according to Kite Bro, president of the Victoria Cannabis Company in BC. Companies like Organogram and Indiva are lobbying hard to have this increase in order to capitalize on all the excess biomass that they can turn into distillates for edibles. An excess or lower priced flower can contribute to product diversity. However, the intense strain that price compression places on the overall product may also present challenges for the consumer.
This isn't good for the consumer in the long run, says Nickel. Every day, someone is going out of business and the pool of suppliers gets weaker. A lot of people are producing really great flower, but they're all competing for the 10% of the market that buys that. At this rate, pretty soon, all you'll be able to buy is mid-grade flower. The market shakeout continues to make news. Recently, Calgary-based Ogen Cannabis closed its facility and laid off 87 workers. There are still processors and LPs whose long-term feasibility remains doubtful, given that they're operating with unsustainable business models, while the cost of inputs outpacing revenue.
Now, Nickel from North 40 says that if all these public companies had to sell it for at least a break-even point, it would be game over. It would be a game changer. But they continue to sell at losses, which gives them a big advantage over small companies like mine. Frankly, every time a big public co goes under, there's a big cheer over here. It can't happen fast enough.
Yeah, I'd like to see the guys.
For many large publicly traded companies, staying in business means making significant adjustments. Aurora Cannabis is now focusing on medical cannabis and cut flower exports. Canopy Growth has expanded into select U.S. markets, but continues to operate at a loss. And Organogram recently received an injection of $125. I'm going to say it's $125 million. It says $125. That doesn't make sense from British American Tobacco. So it must be millions.
Wow. Yeah. As the market rationalizes, pricing stability is near certainty, though it's hard to predict where the bottom is and when it will arrive. One thing seems clear: there doesn't appear to be much further. There doesn't appear to be much further for flower prices to fall. One bet. Which with such intense, well, not for the LP. Don't let me go off on a tangent. With such intense,
focus.
focused in the compression. However, companies have less room to maneuver. I think flower prices have hit bottom, but I also think that the concentrate market will soon come down, says Rowe from Victoria Cannabis Company. Lower prices for consumers will equal less diversity. Large corporate growers take months to pivot to the trends of the market, and new flavors and new SKUs easier to change up for smaller producers.
Yeah. Rowe's comments suggest that nimble, smaller producers may have some competitive advantage, assuming these smaller companies have great genetics and reliable partners with consistent sales and realistic pricing strategies. Maintaining positive cash flow should keep a business afloat, but surviving isn't the same as thriving, and short-term consumer gain has a price.
In an ever worsening economy where disposable income is evaporating, lower prices on anything is good for consumers, says Stewart. What's not good for consumers is the mid to high end craft options disappearing because they're not selling their crops at the right price. Many growers are playing a waiting game, hoping the price comparison is near bottom. A well-run business with a laser focus of the bottom line might be able to hold on with margins as low as 10%. They can stand firm on prices or even push back against the large provincial wholesale purchasing boards.
And I've lost where we were.
Just under the waiting game.
Just under the waiting game. Okay, changes to prices must come from industry, says Davison from McIntyre Creek Cannabis. Only when LPs tell the boards, we can't sell you this product at that rate and be profitable, will prices adjust. Like in every other industry, it's the seller's role to say, this is the best deal I can give you and still make money. This standoff only works if the product is of high quality. As it stands, cannabis in the vault is essentially worthless, and selling at basement prices is hardly a growth strategy.
If you need to generate $30,000 per month just to keep the lights turned on, selling a 50-cent gram is better than not paying your power bill, says Stewart from Stewart Farms. This isn't sustainable long-term, of course, and we will see a lot more operations drop over the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. Stewart says that some of where did I go? Stewart says that some of the capacity may come back online. Nonetheless, there's no unique value proposition. The new owner will be in the same boat, competing for negative margins, just like the previous operation.
Fighting over the bottom of value doesn't have room for many winners.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No. All right. I don't know if we'll get all the stories in, but we're going to give it a shot.
Yeah, we're heading over to the conversation right now. Psilocybin shows promise for treating eating disorders, but more controlled research is needed.
Psychedelic research has surged in recent years, sparking enthusiasm among clinicians, investors, and the general public. Clinical trials are indicating transformative outcomes for people struggling with mental illness like depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and end-of-life anxiety. Recently, the spotlight is turning to eating disorders, a group of severe and difficult to treat conditions. A survey revealed that 70% of the people view psychedelic medicine as a promising avenue for EDs, and numerous reports depict positive results.
Media platforms abound with compelling personal stories, from online articles to Netflix documentaries, Reddit threads, TikTok videos, and YouTube clips. But the critical question remains, does the scientific evidence align with the hype? As a doctoral student in the field of neuropsychology with a personal interest in EDs, I delved into the literature to assess the evidence for psilocybin-assisted therapy in ED treatment.
EDs have the highest mortality rate among psychedelic disorders, and the prevalence is on the rise. Treatment usually involves a combination of medication and therapy, but avoidance, dropout, and resistance are all too frequent. Many patients go untreated or endure symptoms for life. Overall, we lack treatment options that yield long-term improvements. While the causes of EDs are diverse, patients often exhibit alterations in brain connectivity and serotonin signaling. These changes affect regions involved in body image, mood, appetite, and rewarding, resulting in cognitive inflexibility.
This manifests as rigid thought patterns like religious calorie counting, restrained emotions, and punishing exercise regimes, among other ED behaviors. Cognitive inflexibility may also be the culprit for treatment resistance itself. It seems that standard treatments do not address the full range of mechanisms underlying EDs. Unlike conventional talk therapy led by therapists, psilocybin therapy uses the psychedelic experience to alter brain activity and foster cognitive flexibility.
Psilocybin, an naturally occurring plant alkaloid found in the Psilocybin genus of mushrooms, was first introduced to Western medicine by indigenous communities in the 1950s. It increases serotonin signaling while reducing the activity of brain networks linked to rigid thinking patterns. These changes are thought to enhance body image, reward processing, and relax beliefs, ultimately catalyzing the therapeutic process. But does clinical evidence support this? Well, somewhat.
Yeah. A case study described a woman with treatment-resistant anorexia nervosa who, after 2 doses of psilocybin, experienced immediate mood enhancements, increased insight into the root of her symptoms, and long-term weight resolution. Another study found that a single dose of psilocybin was safe and tolerable in women with anorexia nervosa, reducing their body image concerns.
In another report, an individual with body dysphoria responded well to both fluoxetine and psilocybin treatment, but was treatment resistant to other medications. Theological evidence suggests a role for psilocybin in treating binge eating, compulsive overeating, and food addiction, while also improving symptoms of depression and trauma. However, despite these exciting prospects, numerous limitations temper the results.
Yeah. There's challenges with conducting research. The gold standard of evidence for any intervention is the randomized controlled trial, the RCT. Well, where participants are randomly assigned to an intervention or control group, ideally without knowing which they are assigned. The idea is to reduce the impact of individual differences and expectancy bias to truly see if an intervention is effective or not. However, for psychedelic RCTs, it can be difficult to properly blind participants. Hallucinations are a bit of a dead giveaway.
Many studies feature small sample sizes, lacking diversity, which limits real-world application in the real world. While psilocybin has a good safety profile, participants are highly vulnerable during psychedelic experiences. The experience is often ineffable and different for everyone, making the process of informed consent ethically challenging. It is also crucial to acknowledge excessive enthusiasm in the field where researchers and participants' personal use of psychedelic may introduce bias. Among other limitations, we need to be aware of how this impacts results portrayed in the media.
And then, I mean, patient safety is stuff that we've read for almost everything. I mean, like, there's always patient safety, and those thoughts and what they do is fairly the same from study to study. Yeah. I think we can get one more in, Al.
Let's try to get one more in there.
Ganjapreneur study: people who consume cannabis for sleep quit sleep aids.
Nice. A recent study found that 80% of the people who consumed cannabis to help with sleep quit using prescriptions and over-the-counter sleep aids as melatonin and benzophenes. Yes, nice. Yeah. Half of those surveyed reported significantly using cannabis containing CBD and the terpene mycene. 33.8% use cannabis edibles and 14.1% use cannabis capsules.
Which is an edible as well. In a statement, Carrie Cutler, senior author of the study and associate professor of psychology at the WSU, said that people were seeking out cannabis products with myrcene to help them with sleep surprised her. Study participants reported varying morning outcomes and side effects. Cannabis users more commonly reported feeling refreshed, focused, and better able to function in the morning after consuming cannabis, and said they experienced fewer headaches and less nausea compared to using traditional modern sleep aids. Cannabis really is the traditional one. Cannabis consumers also reported feeling sleepier and more anxious and irritable in the morning after consuming cannabis compared to other sleep aids, and were also more likely to report experiencing dry mouth and red eyes after consuming cannabis.
Yes, it does happen. It does. In general, the use of cannabis for sleep-related issues were perceived as more adventurous than over-the-counter medications or prescription sleep aids. Unlike long-lasting sedatives and alcohol, cannabis was not associated with a hangover effect, although individuals reported some lingering effects such as sleepiness and changes in mood.
More than 60% of the study participants said they got 6 to 8 hours of sleep when using the cannabis alone, while less than 20% of the participants said they got 6 to 8 hours of sleep when using a sleep aid. And the study is a large-scale survey of cannabis use for sleep, preferred products, and perceived effectiveness in comparison to over-the-counter and prescription sleep aids. It was published in October and appeared in the journal special issue titled Beyond Weed, Clinical Applications of Cannabis and Cannabinoids. Interesting.
You notice how, you said something in there. When they mentioned capsules, you said something about there being an edible as well, because it's something you swallow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just so you know, you can only go to the store and buy gummies. They got 10 milligrams per package, but you can go to a store and you can buy 1,000 capsules containing 1,000 milligrams of cannabis.
Really? At the legal store?
At a legal store, correct. I've got a package here of capsules, 150 milligrams in one package, 10 milligrams, 15 capsules.
Wow.
Yep. They're not considered an edible. They're an extract.
Interesting. That's good to know.
We'll have a talk after we're done here. Other than that, we got to go. We're running out of time. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today, and we hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, limestonehydroponics.ca, and to you, our viewers. Catch our next Psychedelics and Cannabis educational show on Monday with Rev Kelly and myself. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.